Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. As we are only 6 days away now from Halloween, and it is looking like it will be pretty decent conditions with high pressure building in as we head into the early parts of next week, with generally pretty warm upper air temperatures, which will mean, yes, it is going to be fairly mild during the day, maybe even 16, 17 degrees, and during the evening, because of the higher levels of humidity, higher dew points, there's the risk of a bit of fog, so even a bit of a Halloween feel out there potentially during the evenings. As we enter the longer range, though, into early November, high pressure looks like it will continue to dominate. But as we saw in yesterday's video, a lot of the runs are now trying to push it northwards. Some with some success, others with no success, just with that high pressure toppling. But nonetheless, very interesting pattern as we do head into the final month of autumn, as it does open the door to colder prospects as we do head to the coldest time of the year, into the winter months. The runs today are fairly split, all trying to build that high pressure further northwards, and again we do have runs that do push in some very cold air as we head into the early part of November. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now I record this slightly earlier on Friday today, around 10 AM in the morning, and you can see we've got bits and bobs of rain around at the moment, and earlier this week this looked like it could be quite an intense weather front moving in. Instead it's much lighter and patchy. There are a few heavier pulses within it, but generally speaking it's not too bad as it slowly swings northwards and eastwards and decays away. Further northwards, a few showers around as well, but for most through Friday, it's going to be a fairly gloomy day, but a fairly mild day. As we've got generally warm upper air temperatures, but with this weak area of low pressure, it's just going to allow a little bit of instability, which keeps that cloud, mist and fog around, potentially in places. So not too bad in terms of temperatures, but yeah, a little bit foggy out there, a little bit miserable, but really, we can see a lot worse this time of year. Now, if you look at the temperature, you can see it is fairly mild. As I said, I'm recording this in the morning, so for 10 AM, already seeing quite solid yellows across much of the British Isles. Yeah, that is a very mild pattern, and you can see it is going to persist over much of this next working week and the weekend coming up. But it's as we head into early November, the wind could shift from a southerly or southwesterly to more of a northerly or northeasterly. If that did happen, then all this cold air up to our north from Greenland, Iceland, even cold air starting to build in for Scandinavia would start to move in. And as I said, that could turn us pretty cold indeed for early November. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, we can just about get out to the 30th of October now, so just getting towards that Halloween time, but can't quite get there yet. We're going to have to wait until tomorrow's video or Sunday's video to get our sort of full 5-day out to Halloween. But you can see the rain moving through at the moment will decay away through the rest of today, and there could later on this afternoon for England and Wales be a little bit of a clearing, perhaps some sunshine coming out, but for most it is going to remain fairly gloomy throughout the rest of today. There could be some heavier rain potentially in the far southeast as we head into Saturday morning, and another weather front moving in for northern and western regions, but once again, as this swings southwards and eastwards through Saturday afternoon into the evening, it does decay away very quickly once again, and into Sunday it's a dry morning in the south and the east, another wall of rain arrives, but again it slowly decays away, and by the time it reaches the southeast corner it's just a bit of thick cloud and on and off light rain. So yeah, it can be variable conditions up and down the country with some heavier rain around, but it's really not going to last all too long. When it does move inland, it will decay away very quickly. And then you can see into Monday, again, a bit of rain around, but mostly drying off, and the same can be said for Tuesday. A few patchy showers, but eventually the higher pressure firmly built in, it dries off, and you see even bit of clear skies starting to develop. You can see the mean still of pressure, high pressure building in isobars, very spread apart. Again, pretty typical of a strong area of high pressure. And you see low pressure is well to our northwest. So still could just about impact perhaps northern and western Scotland, but for most we're firmly under the higher pressure. And if you look at the upper air temperatures, it is fairly mild. It is going to vary quite a lot as there is the risk of seeing some small undercutting with some of the cold air. But look at that, big warm southwesterly feed, 12 degrees at 850 HPA. This summertime upper air temperatures, not what we should be expecting for the last couple of days of October, especially under higher pressure. We can see these air masses through the autumn, but normally they're associated with a big mild wedge within a quite deep area of low pressure to get drawn this far northwards. But no, got a very strong southwesterly wind under this higher pressure, and it is going to be turning much milder indeed into next week. Now, do look at the max temperatures. You can see through this afternoon, 16-17 degrees in places. Although it's a bit gloomy today, it is going to be very mild. As we head into Saturday, it's a similar story, maybe slightly fresher in places, more towards the mid to low teens, but for most still fairly mild. As we head into Sunday, it's slightly fresher morning behind that weather front, some chillier air moving in, but really nothing too amazing for the time of year. And you see for Sunday, it is a little bit colder, more towards the high single digits or low double digits, more inclined to what we should start to expect as we head into the latter part of autumn. And then finally into Monday and Tuesday, again, very mild on Monday as we start to see that high pressure building in, 15, 16, 17 degrees. And the same could be said for Tuesday, again, looking at that 15, 16, 17 degree range for our top temperature. That is very mild indeed. And as I said, do cherish it, as I don't think there's too much longer until kind of 10 degrees, 12 degrees becomes our max temperature as we do head into the latter part of the year. Now, if you go head over to the latest GFS now, you can see this low pressure system out to our southwest that is slowly trying to push in, but it disintegrates away as it makes progress over the next 24 hours, and that's why all that rain is petering away at the moment. As we head into the early part of next week, high pressure firmly builds in, and look at this, it sits right over the top of us for Halloween. Of course, giving us dry conditions, giving us fairly mild conditions, but as I said, there could be a bit of mist and fog around because of that higher pressure. However, as we head into early November, look what happens. The high pressure is moving up towards Greenland and trying to pull in a northerly wind. Now, the GFS is a little bit unsuccessful today with actually pulling in a northerly wind or northeasterly wind, but it has an attempt at pushing up towards Greenland. And in the end, the high pressure actually just kind of sticks over the top of us. And right towards the end of the run, it actually starts to encourage a southerly wind. And we see a typical kind of reversal pattern where we look so close to going very cold, all that cold air spreading into Europe. Instead, we actually go very mild. We've seen these sort of patterns during the winter time before, and they have caused real disappointment. We've actually gone from very cold prospects to very mild just because the blocking hasn't gone anywhere, the high pressure hasn't gone anywhere, it's just sat in a slightly different orientation, meaning we are on the southerly wind side of the higher pressure, not on the northerly or easterly side, which is the side you want to be on, the eastern portion of the higher pressure, to see the colder air. So it looks like the GFS sets us up on the western side and the southern side of the higher pressure, whereas if we want to be on the colder side, you ideally want to be on the eastern side. And instead, the high pressure doesn't get that far northwards and westwards, and as I said, we stay on that western edge. And that's why we go much milder on the end of this run. But again, I wouldn't take these upper air temperatures as gospel, as we've got to decipher those pressure patterns before we have a look at those surface temperatures. But again, nonetheless, very interesting seeing that high pressure trying to ridge northwards, just showing you that the atmosphere could potentially be primed for something colder as we do head into November. Now, if you look at the latest GEM, again, low pressure moving through at the moment, high pressure ridging in into next week, looking very, very mild and dry. But you can already see, actually, at Halloween, signs of a change. Again, high pressure ridging up towards Greenland, northerly wind trying to push in, and it has more success than the GFS, but not fully, and we do see the high pressure topple. So it's not a full-blown Greenland block, but we do see very cold air moving in. -5 isotherm moves in for the early part of November, giving a very chilly bonfire night. And you see streaming in northeasterly winds. Again, I wouldn't even be surprised with a bit of snow across parts of Scotland, maybe even on the North Sea coast if we're lucky overnight. But again, that is still very far away. And you can see daytime temperatures, look at that, midday 5 or 6 degrees, maybe 7 degrees at best. And you can see overnight temperatures widely below freezing as we move inland. So yeah, a very cold pattern could be setting up. And if you go just a few days prior towards Halloween, it's 15 or 16 degrees. So yeah, could be some big changes and big contrasts coming up as we exit out of October and start November could be a very, very sort of stark difference from basically the last day of October, Halloween, to the first few days of November. It's almost like the calendar is going to be a dividing line between mild, autumnal, or even late summer-like pressure patterns towards more wintertime patterns. Now, to finish by looking at the latest ECMWF, again, broadly very similar. High pressure building in as we head into next week. A very dry and mild Halloween. And then again, high pressure ridging towards Greenland. A northerly wind is pushed in, and it's very similar to the GM, where it does get colder air in, but it's not quite fully successful. And you can see it goes cold for a few days before eventually we do see high pressure toppling back in over the top of us. But with cold air at the surface, I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of an inversion. And you can see that with overnight temperatures down towards freezing, even though the upper air temperatures are actually very mild, around the 7 to 9 degree mark. So again, we'll have to wait and see the exact patterns as we head into early November, but definitely looks like there could be a northerly wind coming in. Probably won't be wintry, probably won't be very cold. Of course, it is still early November, but could put a real chill to the air, give us our first widespread frost. We have seen frosts around during this autumn through September, especially with some early season frosts, but they've not been widespread where all areas have seen temperatures down towards freezing. They've been mainly rural regions, but with this sort of pattern, it could be widespread indeed. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how it does play out, but very interesting nonetheless. Now, if we do finish by looking at the latest ensembles, if we start on the latest GFS, this is the midnight run. Generally hovering around average over the next week, and then basically the first day or second day of November, we start to see a huge contrast in these ensemble members. It's about a 50-50 split, maybe 1/3, 2/3 split, with 1/3 to a half going for cold down towards 0 or below 0 at 850 HP, and then around a half to 2/3 staying around average or slightly above average. So a big split appearing. The one thing they're all in agreement is high pressure is in control. As you can see, very little precipitation in that sort of medium range period, which is very good indeed. It's just all about how much precipitation, how cold will it be? Where will that high pressure go as we head into the early part of November? Again, you'll be able to see this with the changes in 2 meter temperatures. Some runs for the early part of November, still 16, 17 degrees. Other runs, 6 or 7. So a 10 degree temperature contrast there. Again, will make a huge difference to the field light temperatures. And again, the dew points, look at that as we enter the longer range. Some down towards freezing, that will encourage frosts, maybe even wintry showers. Others are into the double digits, would be much milder, foggy conditions, potentially. So very interesting to see that. And if we do compare to the ECMWF, the midnight run hasn't fully come out, unfortunately, as I'm recording this. But if we look at the midday run from yesterday, again, you can see a very similar contrast. The ECMWF has been fairly consistent over the past 24 hours or so with this pattern. And if we do just compare to Glasgow for the upper air temperatures further northwards, again, you can see not quite as much disparity, which does give the indication that perhaps some of these runs were showing more of a northeasterly flow, which means that Glasgow wouldn't directly be in the firing line. Actually, eastern England, northeast England would be more in the firing line. So again, we'll have to wait and see. But very interesting developments in the longer range. And whether anything comes off in early November, it doesn't really matter. It just shows you that even with longer range prospects of a westerly flow, stronger than average stratospheric polar vortex, we can still see high pressure up towards Greenland blocking and potentially colder patterns. And of course, if you're interested in those longer term prospects, do check out the winter look aheads we have posted. Our last one was about a week ago. Hopefully we'll get another one out soon as we do again have a look as we do head slowly towards winter. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.